take no part of it. No, I want to spread the joy to the world. Welcome to TNT, the greatest street party. Yeah. So when you see me winding up, chopping up and carrying up, look like a drunk and falling up, leaping up. I'm moving with good company, friends and family with me, sipping on juice that make you believe me. Highness for the spree, spread up your hands and free, spread up your hands and free. On the road in a party, on the road we home, in the fete we home, going live on the phone, we home. The whole country ready to party, Calypso so catch at me, Panorama not missing me. No, cause when the music hit me brain, he that make me go insane. It's Carnival come again. Yeah. So when it's
Thank you so much, Master Control. Yeah, we're just going to do a little test run before we officially kick things off at 5 p.m. You know what time it is. It's, of course, it's Sunday at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's all about the Observer, where, of course, we look at many of the topics that were looked on perhaps throughout the week, and some things that you yourself would like to personally touch on. So we try to get the best people on board to give you the information that you deserve. Undiluted, unfiltered, and of course, straight from the horse's mouth. Hey, don't forget, of course, the Monday night report, and it's going to focus around the first 100 days of the current UNC administration, and that's tomorrow, Monday, August 11th, 7 p.m. at the Couva South Multipurpose Hall, Camden Road, Couva. And it's going to be, the feature address will be delivered by the Honorable Prime Minister and political leader of the United National Congress, Kamala Prasad Bissessa SC, and of course the event will be live streamed on the social media channels of the UNC. So you are invited to the event, and looking forward to your presence. You don't want to miss it. Again, it's taking place at the Multi-Purpose Hall, Camden Road, Couva, 7 p.m. sharp. So, you know, get with your folks, get with your UNC family, and get on board whatever transport you may need, whatever assistance to get there. Yeah, a lot has been said, of course, when you look at some of the headlines for the past week. Probe Faris. Faris faces the DPP $1.4 billion CPEP scandal explodes. And I'm sure you've been seeing people who have been making videos that are very upset, talking about the URP and other programs perhaps that they felt should be functioning. But of course, just to remind you that this evening we're speaking to the Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Senator the Honorable Philip Alexander, Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, Senator the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh, Attorney at Law, Kyle Taklalsingh. He's going to be talking about the standard ground legislation. You know, recently the UNC had their open forums, their consultations that took place across the country in different constituencies. Now he'll be telling us more about that, because a lot of people are still, you know, saying, listen, we need to get some more detail about this. And of course, we're speaking to Prison Officers Association President Jared Gordon. He has quite a lot to say, talking about unfair treatment and the fact that so much they have to deal with as far as a highly stress-related job, and a lot of money has been spent, but the working conditions have never ever been improved. So that's a lot that we have to look at. Significant reductions in murders. There has been a 14.8% reduction compared to 2020, a 29.8% decrease compared to 2022, a 32.3% decrease compared to 2023, and a 35.5% decrease compared to 2024. So we'll be looking at some of this as well, if not today, of course, sometime in the near future, and you get your chance before we wrap up to weigh in on many of these issues. Some people are also talking about the ExxonMobil deepwater blocks here in this country, to award to ExxonMobil deepwater blocks. So that's something that we have to look at. Keep our eyes on that. Very, very important. And so much more. And again, we will be speaking to the Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Senator the Honorable Philip Alexander, Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, Senator the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh, Attorney at Law, Kyle Taklalsingh, and the Prison Officers Association President, Jared Gordon. So we have a lot to discuss and to bring you the information. And again, as I started, I told you about tomorrow, the Monday night report that will be centered at the core of it, the first 100 days of the UNC administration. So you don't want to miss that. Couva South, Multi-Purpose Hall, Camden Road, Couva. A lot is taking place, people. And of course, when we do open the lines, you tell us, of course, what's your thoughts, how you feel about the first 100 days. I mean, so much information back and forth. Some people, they believe that what they have were realistic expectations, perhaps expecting too much after all that we've been through in the last 9.5 years. Is it even fair? Is it justifiable for some of the comments that people have been making? And I'm quite certain that you would, of course, weigh in on that. CPEP lawyers write the former chairman and tell him, come clean on Faris. And this is something that came up with the, which came up with Anand Ram Logan, former attorney general. So very interesting. Hey, let me say good evening to JP Harper. Good evening to you. A pleasant good evening to Anna Munsami, all the good folks that are locked on. Also, happy birthday to TJ. He's an old St. Anthony's boy celebrating his birthday today. And all the good folks, of course. Yeah, a lot is happening. Safras Ali, good evening to you. And to everyone locked on to the Observer. Again, we officially start in about 4 minutes' time. A lot is taking place. Quite interesting indeed. When you look at some of what's taking place. And again, as I said, there are people who are hell-bent on making certain pronouncements as far as the performance of the government in their first 100 days. There's also a call for A+ donors, as Inshan Ismail, you know, popular TV host and businessman Inshan Ismail, battles cancer, and a family plea for urgent blood donations has been posted. I'm sure you've seen it, if not on social media, for him, who he needs some help. And the family asks anyone able to donate A+ blood to visit the Port of Spain General Hospital as soon as possible. So if you can, and if you can reach out and assist, I'm certain that the family and Mr. Ishmael, Inshan Ishmael, would be quite thankful for that. So, you know, please, if you can. So we'll be talking to some good folks. Also, of course, I'm sure I know you've heard that Dr. Tim Gopi Singh is the head of the North Central Regional Health Authority, and he vows to address many of the long-standing issues with the RHA that has been, you know, somewhat that the general public would have to deal with. And he made it quite clear that he is committed and dedicated in making sure that it runs a whole lot better than it's functioning right now. And I mean, you've seen all the people who turned out for that free healthcare service at Napa during the week. There's long lines. It tells you something. It signals something, and it also signals as well that we have a personal responsibility to try to get preventive measures need to be put in place. I mean, many of us will have hypertension, diabetes, a lot of non-communicable diseases, and we have to look at the fact that if we're getting the proper exercise, proper diet, if we're taking the proper medication, all of these things we have to look at. When you go out there and you eat foods that are not going to be healthy for you, of course, in the long run, you will pay a price. So again, I think we need to be a lot more health conscious. If anything that we've learned from watching all these people turn out, seeking medical assistance, that tells you quite a lot. So we've got that and more kicking off at 5 o'clock. So as we get ready, I want to, of course, invite you to stay locked on, hold on, and of course, whenever you get the link, where you get the link, please share as we get ready to officially start today's program, The Observer, with yours truly, Mikey K, right here on Guile TV, Facebook, Tigo, YouTube, and of course, Real Media TT. If you get a link, again, share. So, we'll be right back.
Observer. Mikey K. The Observer.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choices: food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
If you live with diabetes, your pancreas works overtime every single day. Between our rich foods and busy lives, chronic inflammation can sneak in, stressing the pancreas and raising the risk of complications. Over time, inflammation can damage these cells, making blood sugar harder to control.
Protecting your pancreas from inflammation is a smart way to support healthy blood sugar management.
Backed by science, Omega XL is a natural anti-inflammatory with over 30 free fatty acids, proven to help reduce inflammation at its source. Learn more online or ask your local pharmacist.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Dust from the Saharan desert, over 6,000 kilometers away, travels across the Atlantic to our little island, filling the air we breathe with tiny dust particles that can trigger an inflammatory response when inhaled into the lungs.
Saharan dust travels far and triggers inflammation. Omega XL helps reduce it at the source. Support your body from within.
And we are back. Thank you so much, Master Control. Thank you indeed. And welcome, folks. It's The Observer right here on Guile TV, Tigo, Facebook, and of course on realmediatt.com. And wherever you catch it, please share the link. Hey, we're speaking to a minister in the Ministry of Housing, Senator the Honorable Philip Alexander. He owed us an interview. He kept his word, and he is on. Pleasant good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Mickie. Good evening to your crew. Good evening to Master Control. Good evening to everyone listening here and abroad. Good evening. I apologize to all of you for the last time. That was just exhaustion.
I know how it is. I know how it is. You're going non-stop. And talking about going non-stop, 100 days, of course, of this new administration. I mean, from a personal perspective, before we dive into many of the issues, what's it like? What has it been like for you?
Oh my God, Mikey. What has been like? The Prime Minister has a vision for the country. I keep saying that, and it's not open for discussion. So we all have to find a way to get to our targets over, under, or through. And of course, my line minister is the Honorable David Lee, and he is very focused. Myself, Honorable Minister Anna Roberts, and him are building out a team to do the 20,000 houses that we have to do in 5 years, which if you compare it to the less than 5,000 houses that the PNM did in 10 years, the Prime Minister wants us to do 4 PNM administrations in this term, where housing is concerned. And we're going to hit the targets there, but it's been a whirlwind of activity, getting everything in place, and but I look forward to delivering. So it's interesting. I'm surrounded by heavy hitters. This is not a joking government. If you look at the people in every ministry, they are captains of their industry. They are people that are capable of delivering, and this country is going to see massive results very soon.
You know, coming out after 9.5 years of economic and social stagnation, do you think sometimes that a lot of the demands are unjustifiable? I mean, 100 days, but now you hear people saying, listen, we expected this, we expected that. You know, when we went to the polls, we felt that we were going to get this right away. I mean, have you been bombarded with that? I mean, hearing that narrative being played out?
Absolutely. And I said that. We told people, you know, crime is down to pre-2020 levels. And they're not stopping to say, wow, well done. Before they say, yeah, but what about my road? What about my water? What about, you know, and yeah, we rescued a country from a political hostage situation, and the people are finding their freedom, they're finding their voice. The Prime Minister says, let them talk, answer the questions. We are not to be rude, disrespectful, dismissive. We are to answer, we are to give credible responses to all of the questions so the public is informed. And it's exactly as you said, that the people are very demanding. And I think it's because they had no voice. They were locked in a basement, tied together, mouths gagged. We were being dealt with by politicians who were disrespecting us, talking to us like we were children or worse. I can't get over the maybe it's time to stop eating so much macaroni pie and ham, or start to eat breadfruit, cooking cold pot. This is what we were getting from a government that told us to wean ourselves off government while the 1% were rampaging home. But anyway, that's where we at, and their demands are not unreasonable. The country deserves real government. We're just coming from below level, so there's a lot of work for us to break through. And Bill Bratton, I'll never forget Bill Bratton, the ex-New York City Commissioner. Yeah. He told us, with the last UNC administration, he told us, as the National Security at the time, he told us, you're going to deliver today, but people are not going to feel your delivery for 2 years. So you have to make sure that your communication's spot on so you could close that gap so people can understand what exactly is going on. And you see that he was right. You see that now. The public wants what the public wants, and we are going to find a way to deliver.
Yeah, but when you talk about, for example, social culture, I mean, there are people who are now going about just making statements about, for example, URP, making videos, cursing, saying, listen, this program is something that I benefited from. This program is something that I was able to raise my children on, pay for school books and what have you. But then you hear the administration saying that this is a program that was abused. This is a program that was gripped in corruption. This is a program where basically people were on payroll that did not function in any capacity. They never turned up for work. And I mean, you hear all kinds of stories. You hear the line minister, the Honorable Khadijah Amin, laying it out and what have you. How then do you hold and break that culture so people can understand that what is being done here is not a matter of victimizing anyone, but it's a matter of getting it right, getting it where the people who need to benefit the most get it, rather than having middlemen and other people play out with their own agenda?
Mickie, we can't convert the PNM talking head. They have their job to do. They are given scripts to read. They are given phone cards to make these videos. They're straight out of Alizé House. They've been doing this one play for the past 20 years. You know it, I know it. So we can't deal with them. We have to make sure that the average person could put food on the table, keep the lights on, get the books for the school. We have to make sure that that happens. But the Prime Minister is correct. Make work programs are supposed to be temporary. If you have somebody making a video saying she raised a family on URP, then URP failed her. It's unemployment relief. It's not a career. And it's supposed to be transitionary because it's really small money. And the government is supposed to be able to say, okay, look, we have 10,000 people in this unemployment relief program. So that means we need to generate 10,000 real jobs so that this program doesn't have to continue. Its only existence is to fill a gap. But the gap needs to be, jobs need to be created so that there is no more gap. And that is the conversation that we're having with the country. And the Prime Minister is hands-on. She talks to us daily. Her fingers are on the pulse of this thing. We are literally transforming the society of Trinidad and Tobago, cultural expectations, we're managing expectations as we go forward. There are a lot of people who were left out of the system previously who didn't benefit. And they are asking, why all this noise because they didn't know. When our former minister, Gasby Dolly, came out and said, all of these grants exist, make sure you go and get these grants. People say, but why you didn't tell us that when you were in office? Because you weren't telling us that. You weren't telling us wean ourselves off the government. So which is it? You know, and the unemployment relief, the CPEP was created with Rahal and Manning trying to say we'll transition people, give them skills and get them into jobs. That never happened. What CPEP happened to become was contractors and gangs. And the contracts quickly accelerated from small money filling a gap to massive theft of the treasury. And that's what we saw. And that's what's taking a former government minister before the courts, because the courts dealing with a civil matter where CPEP was concerned and a contractor stopped the case and said, listen, this has to go to the DPP. This is a criminal matter. And that's where we at. When you're seeing the courts realizing that what was taking place as CPEP and contractors, there's a lot more going to come out in the public space. And if I could say, based on where I am in the HGC had board approval before the elections to bring on 600, let's call them interns, right. People with new skills, let's call them interns, and that the people in charge of maintenance of all of the thousands of HDC properties were to find work for these 600 people. And a couple of days before the elections, 2 government ministers brought in 2,300 people, no board approval. The people responsible for the maintenance saying, what am I supposed to do with this? I have no material, I have no tools, I have no jobs. They say, find work for them, find money to pay them. We come into office now, and these 2,300 people who were given 2-month jobs, basically to buy their vote, looking to us for the money. Because there's no money in the HGC budget, coffers, set aside for that. It's not approved. The board didn't approve it, and David Lee, with his good heart, watched all of us in the meeting, because I in the meeting with the whole executive of the HGC, the whole Ministry of Housing, and he said, regardless, this organization that we lead now made a commitment to these 2,300 people. So now we have to find the money to pay them. Wow. And that is what was going on under the last administration. And Peter was paying for Paul. There were whole organizations that were just taking advantage of the public purse. And we have to, gotta get on top of it, and we're doing that.
Yeah, I know that's not easy. I mean, looking at it, of course, this administration is saddled with many of those financial responsibilities now. But looking, of course, at everything that is laid out, I mean, first 100 days, and you mentioned something about getting the message out there. You've always made this statement about the mafia-driven or the mafia-led media printing what they print. When you look at some of the headlines, because coming out of the post-cabinet conference, there are many things. I mean, when you talk about scholarships, you talk about the fact of the demerit system, so many things have taken place in these first 100 days, but they simply do not make the headlines. I guess it doesn't sell when it comes to newspapers. So how important is it for the administration, after, of course, the first 100 days that you were able to look on and see how things are developing, how important is it for them to control the narrative and work on the communications?
That's mission critical. It's absolutely mission critical for us to do that, because today the Express run a headline that the UNC is a hoax. Now, I mean, you have, as you just rightly said, 100 days. When you look at new governments coming into office, get something called a honeymoon, which allows you to figure out what exactly is going on in each of these ministries so that you could organize yourself to move forward with your plan. We didn't get that. We had to hit the ground running. Whatever you find, if you come in and the building on fire, out the fire, but get this thing done. And we're doing that. And the media, which is, I mean, the media in Trinidad and Tobago has become a tool of the 1%. It's a tool of the contract mafia. It's a tool of the people people are now trying to understand why we coined this phrase contract mafia. It's a mafia of people that get in contracts in HTC, in CPEP, in every ministry, and they just collecting contracts. There was people boasting that they had too many building contracts. They were subcontracted out, and that is what was taking place. It was a madness. And the media, instead of being, I don't know, decent about it, actually getting down into the conversation, because they know that a former local government minister could very well end up on charges. Why is that not the conversation? Why in 100 days, crime is below 5-year levels? Right. Why, we removed the demerit points. We tore up the WASA plan. We removed the revenue authority. I mean, so much has been done in this 100 days. You're going to look to people and print a headline that the UNC government is a hoax. That is highly irresponsible journalism. And yes, you are spot on when you say that we have to manage the narrative. And that is why we have to be on shows like yours. We have to be on independent shows like yours and give the other side of the story so that the average person could know what's really taking place in the country.
Yeah, what do you say to people who weigh in on the issue and say, listen, you are a senator, you're functioning in a ministry, where are you still finding time to post anything on social media? Why do you need to lay out any narrative different to what the media wants to put out there to the people? What do you say when people address you like that?
Listen, I am a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago first and foremost, and I understand the communication, and I understand that the government needs to be getting its message out, and I am going to make sure to do my part where I can to help make that a reality, because if we don't, then they're going to propagate these lies and mislead the population like they did in 2015. 2015 government was the best performing government in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, but you couldn't tell that if you were reading the papers at the time. We can't let that happen again. So when people ask me, where do I find the time? This is my Sunday afternoon. I should be feet up, Netflixing and chilling. But I'm on it with you, and I'm on social media today, making sure to debunk the PNM narrative. I watched Randall Mitchell go on a thread and share my video from yesterday that gone mad viral about a madness that took place on Maracas Beach. And he's sharing and he's saying, in all his time as Minister of Tourism, nothing like this ever took place. But he's a madman to say that, because I was on Fazir Muhammad's show in 2017 battling the chairs and tents and umbrellas for the public, and we got some reprieve through the police service at the time. So he can't come and say that there were systems in place. If you go up to Maracas Beach, and I'm just using this as an example to show you them trying to manipulate narrative. You go up to Maracas Beach, there was a story the other day, tourists fall down inside one of the boardwalks. The whole place is a collapsing mess. Citizens don't even avail themselves of the facilities because they're so horrible, they're so badly done. Lifeguards have no place to operate. The lifeguard stations for years now is some concrete blocks and plywood. And he is trying to say that all of that happened in the last 3 months so that we should fix it. And I'm saying, what they want, what Marvin Gonzalez wants, is for us to stay quiet so that they could spin their tall tails. We're not going to let that happen this time around. And I said today, the Prime Minister has an army. We have political gunpowder we ain't touched yet. And if they feel that we're going to rock back and let them rewrite history to tell a tale, they're wrong. I tell you that.
Recently, you had, I believe it was your pre-budget consultations at the VIP location of the Queen's Park Savannah. Give us an idea. I mean, the folks that came out, they attended, some of the things that was said that really stood out as far as what on the minds of the citizens and what they're looking for moving forward.
Basic needs. They want basic needs met. People want, when you have a pre-budget consultation, you're expecting people to come with plans and ideas and proposals for things above and beyond the basic needs. But these people still trying to get out of the culture of cesspits. They're trying to get out of the culture of, well, if your road collapsing, you know, you had to try and find a way to drive around the potholes. They're trying to get to the culture of, how do I access some kind of grant, some kind of funding to maintain whatever I living in? Because we on a HDC list 45 years now. Full families. Mother on the list, daughter on the list, granddaughter on the list. And all of them on the same list. And the PNM has never delivered a house to the family. But calling them in, have them signing up stuff, taking money from them under false pretenses. There is a reality to the average citizen and to the people of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, in Belmont, in Gonzales, in Casablanca, in Arapita Road, St. Anne's. These are communities of desperately poor people who have been taken advantage of by the PNM, who come to us with open hands and just saying, look, we didn't vote for you, so you owe us nothing. But we are citizens of this country, and we begging. See what you could do. I was up Fort George the other day with people who live up on the top of Fort George Hill, and they say, we have to drive around 5 landslides, 1 lane, to get home. And this is a tourism site. This is a fort from the days of colonialism, when Trinidad was being fought over between the Dutch and the British and the French and the Spanish and all those who ever had a delusion of owning Trinidad and Tobago. This is what Fort George represents, and it's falling apart. The road to get it is falling apart, and the government of the day was busy cussing and insulting people. So when the Prime Minister says, because under the last administration, you would hear an announcement, budget on the 20th of October. And I said, you wait till the 20th of October, and a man stand up in the parliament and tell you we're going to spend all your money on bulbs. Take it or leave it. You have no choice. The opposite is occurring. The Honorable Kamala Prasad sent all of us, including people like me, who is not the MP. She says you're the shadow MP. Represent the people. We go, we talk, we listen, condense the information, send it back to her team. It is instructing the national budget. This is government. This is the government we wanted. This is the government we said we wanted for all these years, and we have it. What the PNM is trying to do, they're trying to weave a spell and distract us and make us feel that what we see in here is not true, that they didn't destroy the place, that they didn't hold us hostage, that they didn't give away the country to the 1%. But we're not going to let it happen. We're going to be in constant consultation, and the turnout at the Savannah was amazing. And I had people there with me like Lennox Smith, your colleague Lennox Smith. I had Gerard Small. I had other people from Diego Martin Central, Diego Martin Northeast, Diego Martin West, other candidates. And they were there to talk to people too. And it was a real healthy exchange of people that we put party aside and we focus on the people and government. And I think that it was really, an eye-opening experience for me, because I didn't expect the kind of numbers that came out. I didn't expect the kind of exchanges that took place. And I think that we're on a good footing. 100 days. This is 100 days. It's 3 months. 3 months in office. We've done so much that we have only the best to look forward to. I think it's only going to get better from here.
I got to ask you finally, I mean, you're right, 100 days, and it's quite an accomplishment. A lot of things have been done, and again, we have to control the narrative, you know, but as Philip Alexander, as senator, and of course, with so much more to go, how do you want to be remembered after all is said and done?
That I kept my word, that I was part of a government that kept its promises, that we delivered. 2010 to 2015 was a remarkable piece of governance, and it got lost in PNM propaganda. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen this time around. For the election, we built a wall around Kamala Prasad Bisesa. They couldn't get near her. We destroyed all of her attackers. One by one, as they come, they were destroyed. They're now politically dead. They're in the grave. They're in the political cemetery. We're going to do the same for her and her government. I am not saying to you that I would watch wrong take place and I wouldn't speak up about it, because I don't have that. genetically, I am predisposed to say, hey, we can't be part of any kind of wrongdoing, any kind of disadvantage, any kind of injustice. Beyond that, I want to be remembered as somebody who stood up for the country and kept my word. Given an opportunity, I didn't rock back. I didn't say I'm going to draw a salary and enjoy my life and go party. I am out there working. A PNM troll put up a set of pictures of me and said, look, UNC's version of what? Berkey, I everywhere. And then somebody else wrote and said, you realize that everywhere he is part of his job, right? And that all of those things, because it was everywhere and it was in all of it, that we were showing up. And still beyond that, when you get home, finding time to defend your government and keep the information current in the public space. I know the PNM not liking that, but we are part of an administration that has a massive responsibility. If we're going to turn this place around, people have to almost forget the torture of the last 10 years. I think Amla Prasad Bisesa is going to make a change in this country. They're going to call her the mother of the nation. Like ahead of any father of the nation, she's going to be called the mother of the nation. From the ashes that we've inherited, they're going to build a first world country here. And I'm happy to be a part of that.
It's always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. And of course, we'll be checking in with you periodically, and keep up the good work. 100 days and counting, and you're at work. And that, my friend, says a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me. And I always look forward to coming on the show. So anytime, again, I apologize to the last time. I look forward to the next call. Take care.
Thanks a lot. All right, Senator. There you have it, folks. Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Senator the Honorable Philip Alexander. 100 days, quite a lot, and he's correct. You have to control or at least manage what is being said, those narratives that are out there. You've seen the headlines, UNC hoax and what have you. And there are people who are simply hell-bent on getting misinformation out there because it serves them. They believe they're going to get political traction. They're going to get some political mileage out of it. So they will come and they will attack. They're not here to be cheerleaders or to help build or develop. So you need to understand that once and for all. And that's why programs like The Observer, Ground Report, you have Corridor Transformation, and many of these independent programs are the ones who will, and of course, continue to carry that message and to bring it to you unfiltered, undiluted, and straight from the horse's mouth from that perspective. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, more right here on The Observer.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL. Nourish your heart. Sustain your life.
When you say TNT's construction boss, then there's only one company, Lacroix Construction Services Limited, specializing in general construction, industrial maintenance, manpower resources, transportation and lifting, and equipment rental, excavators, bulldozers, dump trucks, lighting systems, and everything for your project. We have affordable prices. Call now 267-0000 or 431-0012. Lacroix Construction Services Limited, TNT's construction boss.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choice is food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Michelin stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel and topsoil. Also check out Michelin for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Michelin.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
And we are back. Thank you so much, Master Control. And don't forget, for Strong Heart, it's an all-natural omega-7 supplement, so get your Strong Heart XL today. It's for that love muscle, you need that help. And joining us at this time is a man who's no stranger to the Observer. Let me say a pleasant good evening to the Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, Senator the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh. Good evening, sir.
Hi, good day. Hi. How are you keeping?
Well,
good evening, Trinidad and Tobago.
Always good to hear your voice. I know it hasn't, it's hectic, and I want to thank you for taking time out on this lovely Sunday to connect with us and give us the information. 100 days. Tell us, from your personal perspective, how has it been? I know it of course, getting accustomed to office, having to deal with so much. How has those first 100 days been for you?
Well, I mean, as you know, we have an excellent Prime Minister, and because of and you were involved in some of it because of the plans that we had coming into government, the factors we came in doing it, some of what we would like to do. Obviously, what we discovered was even more challenging than we had first envisaged, and so the first order of business was to come to terms with what is there, what we found, and then, as you would recall, immediately after that we had to move into the supplemental, and again that had its own challenges, and now we are busy trying to put the framework in place to execute on the things that we would have committed to under the leadership of the Prime Minister after having adopted the manifesto as government policy. So the mantra of our Prime Minister is for us to move into a framework that we can start to deliver. And so we are now in the process of getting some of those things structured and lined up, even as we go through the planning exercise to deliver the budget in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that there were things that were said before and plans that were laid out, because political scientist Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, he said, of course, recently it is difficult to gauge the government's performance during its first 100 days in office, as it had never revealed what it hoped to accomplish during the period.
Well, I mean, that is a double-edged sword. So, for example, it is difficult to determine what you could deliver in the first 100 days because you're not sure. I mean, you have an idea what is there based on the utterances of the former administration. But the reality is that what we would have found was even more challenging than we first would have envisaged. So for example, when you look at how the budget, the last budget under the last administration was structured, obviously we never hit those types of returns. So you end up with a deficit going into the supplemental. Now, once you've reached that stage, you have to think in terms of, okay, how do we deal with this deficit? So, it's important for us as a responsible government under a very focused prime minister, have to make sure that we govern the country properly. So it means that we have to make sure and be able to meet all our current obligations, especially when it comes to pensions and salaries and other obligations. So, while we would have wanted to be different and we would have wanted to be much more focused on what we would have liked to do, we had to clean up a lot of the things that we would have found. The recent court case of the CPET is only one example in terms of some of the things information that we would have had an inkling about, but did not know all the specifics. So as a responsible government, the first 100 days would have allowed us to garnish some of those facts, stabilize the place. And as one of the things, for example, in my own remit, as you would recall, the Prime Minister would have asked me to go to Washington and reset the relationship with the World Bank and the IDB. And the Minister of Finance assumed the presidency of CAF. And those things are important. Why? Because even as we try to think in terms of how we rebuild the fundamentals of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, we have to also think in who can be our international partners. What are some of the partners we're looking to engage with as we undertake this rebuild, as we focus on the revenues coming from the non-hydrocarbon sector. You may recall that I would have said that one of the things we discovered was that the World Bank has been trying to set up an office in Trinidad and Tobago for, the last couple of years. And the then Minister of Finance would not entertain it. And so they were about to not give up on us, but, move on to other countries who want to partner with them. So it was important for us to go and to, again, indicate to them that unlike the previous administration, we are very keen to have them in Trinidad and Tobago. We're very keen to work with them. So those are some of the things that we would have had to do as we settle down, stabilize the economy, create the partnering engagement. And one of the things that the Prime Minister, with a brilliant stroke of strategy, put together would be a cluster of ministers to be able to chart the course to revitalize the economy. And so she established a very important cluster with the Minister of Trade, Minister of Finance, and myself. So we can cut through some of the conversations, dialogue, and red tape and work cohesively in order to chart this new framework of engagement with international agencies in important economic considerations. So the first 100 days was not just simply twiddling our thumbs and discovering what is there. It is actually creating an important engagement that will allow us to now start to put the pieces together to begin to execute on what is now our government's policy as we move forward.
Yeah, and I'm glad you cleared that up because, again, I was speaking to Senator Philip Alexander, and we were talking about, communications and being able to manage that narrative because at one point you of course had to say, listen, those comments made by the former finance minister that the unemployment rate has nearly doubled, you said that in itself is it's not true. And then the former finance minister went on to say, Mr. Imbert claimed that under the previous administration, of which he was the finance minister, the national unemployment rate stood at 4%. But if I can remember clearly, a lot of this information was not forthcoming. We weren't getting it from the CSO. We were getting it perhaps 2 years late, as the case may be. So in the first 100 days, you had to get in there, see what was in the Treasury, what was available. It was quite a financial balancing act because you had to look at your statutory, your obligations, what you have to pay on a monthly basis, as far as workers, people who have to get their payments. And then at the same time, perhaps also look at the opportunities that exist, what is not there, what was mismanaged, and stop the hemorrhaging of wastage. And in the midst of all of that, you had to deal with misinformation. So, I mean, you basically had to extinguish a lot of these fires that were being set based on mischief and trying to, of course, undermine the administration. In the midst of all of that I just laid out, I mean, how difficult was it?
Well, together with that, we also had to re-engender confidence in the economy.
Of course.
So for us, it is not so much focusing on the failures of the last administration, because the economic heartbeat of our country has to continue to the benefit of our citizens. So it was important for us as well to come up with a new form of engagement. Now, you would have observed, and no pun intended, but you would have observed a number of engagements by the Minister of Finance, Minister of Trade, and myself, as we sought to go to come out and speak about two fundamental things that we would do differently in this administration under the guidance of our Prime Minister. One is that we also went out very quickly and consistently to indicate to the business community that we intend to partner with them and for them to take a more important role to drive economic growth and economic activity in the country. Now, that's fundamental. And I can't tell you how critical that is, because what that means is that government, who had previously kept a number of things in its own hands, and government was the single largest employer, single largest consumer of goods and services, and so on and so on and so on, that we were now fundamentally indicating that government cannot, of its own, be the sole engine driving all economic activity and sucking the oxygen away from the private sector. So it is government's intention, as expressed by our Prime Minister, as indicated in the manifesto, to create that economic engagement that will allow the private sector to now take its a new role, so to speak, because the private sector in Trinidad and Tobago have been doing well in spite of what took place in the last administration. It was our intention, and it is our intention, to now bring them as a partner in developing economic activities, economic growth, and as a driver to stimulate the economy, given the limitations that government has in the past and continues to have now. In fact, one of the things that came up in many of our conversations with international agencies is the challenges that government have in implementing things. And so we need to find, and we needed to come out very quickly to let the private sector know that this will be a new way of engaging. We have adopted an open door policy. We have had many, many meetings with private sector, with different chambers of industry and commerce, different institutions and organizations. We didn't just reset the international conversation. We also began to reset the local conversation with our private sector partners.
Yeah, and you're right. And many people, of course, were asking under the former administration, where does the SMEs fit into this equation? I mean, you just had I believe it's the trade show, the TIC at the Center of Excellence, and as always on display some of the great products that emanate right here in Trinidad and Tobago. But someone, of course, will always say, listen, but where do we go beyond that? I mean, how is Trinidad and Tobago, at this point in time, is it open for business? And is it a business-friendly operating government?
Yes, and I think that is an important consideration. In fact, that's one of the things that, as my partner ministers and myself, again, the Prime Minister is very adamant that the SMEs are to play a significant role and have been playing a big role in contributing to the economic fortunes of Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, it is almost a misnomer for us to say that Trinidad and Tobago is an oil and gas economy. We have stopped being an oil economy for a very, very long time. We're more of a gas economy. But the contribution of the SME sector ought not to be understated. And there's a greater emphasis has to be placed on that engagement. And that's one of the things that the Prime Minister have asked us to do. Where are we going to find additional revenue contributors to the economy and to focus on the non-hydrocarbon sector, especially with SMEs and micro enterprises?
Yeah, now you did mention something that I think people would overlook, and that is consumer confidence. We know it's a big thing in North America, and of course we're looking at what's developing here in our country. Around the corner we have Christmas, and people want to feel that sense that they can, economically exhale and say, listen, I don't mind letting go of $1 because there are policies in place for $5 to return. So I'm that confident that I can go to the store. Perhaps we'll see a spike in shopping, because it has reflected as one of the social indicators for the economy for quite some time. You've heard these same business people talk about it has not been a good season, sales are down, things used to be better. Is it unrealistic at this time for us to say that we can get there in the near future? I mean, we're coming out of 100 days, but when do you believe that we as citizens, as consumers, can say, listen, I feel as though I can let go, I can kind of release some funds because there's policies in place that where I can get back some of my returns?
Well, three things I would say. First of all, I think that our Prime Minister have brought back a semblance of leadership to this country that I think by itself have allowed people, because I've heard and a lot of people have said to me that they feel they have a different vibe about the country now that Prime Minister Kamala Prasad-Bisesa is back at the helm. And very many people in the business community have expressed to me that a UNC administration, both the one that took place between 2010 and 2015, and even now, is a much more business-friendly administration, and they have a lot of expectation and confidence in that. The second thing I would say is that when you go around the country, I've been, like many of my colleagues, we've been working around the clock, but there is a different feeling. I mean, I still see people are out in restaurants and shopping, and so I think that the confidence is slowly coming back. I think what the third thing I would say is that what we need to do is to be even more specific as we come forward. And again, that specificity you will get more so coming out in the lead up and after the budget is delivered by the Honorable Minister of Finance, because obviously we are still operating under the framework of the budget we inherited. And I think that's one of the things that people fail to understand, that there is a limited engagement that we can have from a fiscal perspective because we are dealing with an inherited budget that would have given us a significant deficit that we have to now manage until the end of the fiscal, which is in September. But having said that, I think the Prime Minister, when she delivers her report tomorrow night, and subsequent when other ministers also will engage the public, especially and let me say, I'm really fortunate to have two fantastic colleagues in finance and in trade that we have really put our collective heads together. And in all the engagements that we would have undertaken, I think people are beginning to sense that there is in terms of the Prime Minister, a new person at the helm, but in terms of my colleagues, that there's significant capacity to deliver on the things we talked about. That there are people who, in the case of Minister Maharaj, a titan of the cosmetic industry, who's been a manufacturer. In the case of the Honorable Minister of Finance, somebody who has managed the economic framework for the United National Congress in opposition, and now doing so as a Minister of Finance. I mean, so you have people who are persons who have been in specific industries. Minister Alexander, he has been in the security field for over 30 years. You know, you have a lot of people. Minister John have already delivered projects and in areas of housing and UDCOT and so on. So you have some significant veterans in Minister Munilal, somebody who was shadow for the Ministry of Energy, and you will see in the weeks ahead the kind of delivery that we are going to start to do. So I'm very blessed, and I feel very fortunate to be in a cabinet of this ilk and magnitude, and under the leadership of a fantastic Prime Minister, who I think will go down after we finish this 5 years as one of the best Prime Ministers in this country.
Yeah, I want to agree with you on that. And also I want to agree with you on the fact that there is that sense of you know, that essence of change that people are definitely embracing. And if you go back to 2010, 2015, the entrepreneurial spirit was alive. I mean, I don't know if you ever visited the business registry during that period of time, at the last UNC administration with the partnership. I mean, everybody who believed that, listen, they could have, you know, gotten their economic and financial independent dream off the ground were actually participating. It was a hustle and a bustle where people felt that the opportunities existed. And so coming out of a situation of economic stagnation, again, the question has to be asked that, you know, you will find people who unjustifiably will be asking for things based on our culture that may not be practical, may not be realistic at this time. But are you saying that in time to come, because you did inherit this budget, but once you get over these hurdles, that we can expect some changes, and some changes that will come about not just for SMEs, but for those who want to pursue their business ideas and opportunities?
Definitely, and again, those are grounded in our manifesto that has been adopted as policy, as government policy. So it is our intention to pursue those things that we committed to on the campaign. You see, unlike our predecessors, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar as Prime Minister has asked the government to be faithful to the things we promised and committed ourselves to. And those are the things that we are going to be working very, very hard to make sure that we can accomplish. And you know, and I have a lot of confidence, as I said, in the persons around the cabinet table. I have a lot of confidence in the leadership that is being given to us. And I feel, as I said, I can tell you, I've been I've worked across many countries. I think the opportunity in Trinidad and Tobago is significant. I think in spite of all the challenges that we have faced, I am seeing light at the end of the tunnel. I'm seeing a way forward. And I'm seeing a bright future for us under the leadership of Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and together with my colleagues in the cabinet.
Then I need to ask a question. You just made a statement. You said that, listen, you know, the Honorable Prime Minister has made it quite clear that once you're saying that, you know, we are going to deliver on this, it has to be something that is realistic, practical, and it is something that can, of course, you know, exist. It can be something tangible that the people can see it and believe it. And that says quite a lot. I mean, just that alone, that what you have just stated there, says quite a lot, because I think what hurts consumers and what hurts citizens, I should say, is that when you're told that there's no money, there's no finances to do certain things that, you know, would benefit the people of this country, and then turn around and hear about the wastage, the wanton wastage, about this being bought and this being spent, and this can't be accounted for. And I think that's the painful thing that many people really and truly do not want to continue living through. So, I guess the Prime Minister has taken a step to be very cautious, to hold people accountable, and of course wanting to know exactly where the monies are going, and whatever policies that come about can, of course, realistically be delivered to the citizens.
Exactly, and you know, the other part about it that I think will be important to note as we move forward in the future is that we have to be innovative. We have to be able to think outside the box. We have to recognize that we are not alone in this journey, and there are a significant amount of tools that are available to us. And if I were to say one thing about what is a different characteristic of this administration vis-a-vis what would have happened in the past, especially in the last 10 years, is that, in my view, we used to take a sort of a predictable, and I don't want to use the word lazy, but almost a sort of an unimaginative approach to governing, especially when it comes to developing economic frameworks and policies. I mean, we are living in a world today where, especially in the fiscal space, there is so much dynamism. I prefer to look at it not in terms of the challenges that we face, but the opportunities that we have. And there's significant opportunity. But again, under the direction of the Prime Minister, she asked us to be innovative, to think outside the box, look at the things that we can actually start to deliver, and bring those things to the fore. And that's what we are focusing on.
And in doing so, Minister, since we're talking about outside of the box, and the fact that we are open for business, and this administration is business friendly, have we also looked at many of our nationals who live abroad who may have expertise in different fields? For example, perhaps if they come back here, they can be assigned special projects in AI technology, renewable energy, recyclable options. Has that been entertained?
Listen, we have had so many people reaching out to us, that I think in the months ahead, you're going to see an avalanche of opportunities and persons coming through, and it's not just nationals. We have also had outreach from some of the missions here. We have looked at we have been looking at government to government arrangements, looking to bring, because we have significant capacity here, both in terms of human capital and business people. So what we're trying to do as well is to partner them with international persons and organizations and governments who have a big interest. So we have begun the rebuilding, in other words. We have begun the re-engaging, and we have begun the reimagining of what can happen. And early days yet, but the conversation has begun, and we are moving rapidly to bring some of those to fruition.
All right. Miss, I want to thank you so much for taking time out on this Sunday evening to link here with us. It has been very insightful, very informative, and I'm certain that our viewers are listening attentively and saying, okay, they understand a lot better now. Because again, when you leave these narratives to just be, any which way across, and people may just run with bits and pieces of information, it in no way benefits the citizens of this country. So I want to thank you for taking time out, and of course, letting us know exactly some of the things that you're exploring and what we can look forward to, once we get over some of these hurdles.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, folks, 100 days, and of course, we were just speaking to the Senator, the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh, Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development. And like I said, and he said, it's time to think outside the box, and he's correct. It's time to be innovative. It is time for people to understand that Trinidad and Tobago is open for business. Forget about all that you have heard. Forget about the fact there are people who are just there serving their own interests, looking after themselves, their friends, their family, finances. And when in fact you have young, brilliant-minded people who are more than capable to say, listen, we can come up with something innovative in so many different fields, whether it be AI technology, renewable energy, whether it be, of course, recycling, and you name it, so many things that exist. And we, of course, can put that out there and compete on the global market, and it is time. We're open for business. We're open for business, And I think those of you with the entrepreneurial spirit that you've put on the shelf for the last 9.5 years, it's time to take it, dust it off, and say, listen, you know what? We're going to live under this administration, because whatever we do will, of course, in return, benefit and help with the development of our country. Take a short break. We'll be right back, more right here on The Observer.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
Oh gosh, this place hot. And the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choice is food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
For all top quality and affordable hardware supplies, no one beats Midland Hardware, located number 97 Eastern Main Road, Arouca. Midland stocks the #1 brands in hand tools, garden tools, water tanks, power washers, generators, water pumps, kitchen and bathroom faucets, along with face basins and toilet sets, blocks, lumber, steel, sand, gravel, and topsoil. Also check out Midland for steel windows and assorted designs of metal curtain rods. Everything for home and business projects. Payments via links, credit cards, online payments, or cash on delivery. WhatsApp 327-7761 or call 646-2144. Open every day from 8 a.m. From foundation to finish, it's all at Midland.
Is high blood sugar the root cause of diabetes? Most people think high blood sugar is the problem. The truth, it's inflammation. Insulin resistance is the root cause of diabetes. Reducing that inflammation is key. Omega XL is a natural option. Not fish oil, but a patented green-lipped muscle extractor with over 30 fatty acids, including EPA and DHA. Clinically studied, backed by over 30 years of research. Stay tuned.
Omega XL. Power your health.
Husqvarna, a global leader in outdoor power equipment, known for its high performance, durable and innovative products, tested and proven by generations of professionals. Full after-sales and service support whenever you need it. Contact Provar Distributors Limited, 223-9438 to find a dealer near you.
If you live with diabetes, your pancreas works overtime every single day. Between our rich foods and busy lives, chronic inflammation can sneak in, stressing the pancreas and raising the risk of complications. Over time, inflammation can damage these cells, making blood sugar harder to control.
Protecting your pancreas from inflammation is a smart way to support healthy blood sugar management.
Backed by science, Omega XL is a natural anti-inflammatory with over 30 free fatty acids, proven to help reduce inflammation at its source. Learn more online or ask your local.
And we are back. We are back. Thank you so much, Master Control. Master, do you have the Monday night stuff? Just to let the good people know again, tomorrow, Monday night report, 100 days. And we do have, of course, attorney at law, Kyle Taklalsingh. He will be right up next. Go right ahead. All right, we could just play it after. So you have me on? Let's go with it. You have it? All right, we're on. All right, folks, we are back. Of course, let me say a pleasant good evening to attorney at law, Kyle Taklalsingh, no stranger to the observer. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening, good evening to you and the listeners and viewers.
Thank you so much. Always good to have you on. You know, this legislation that will establish a statutory right to self-defense and defense of property during home invasion. We're talking about of course, the stand your ground legislation. You know, Mr. Taklalsingh, so much is being said about this. There were consultations by the administration. People were very passionate in you know, what they had to say, talking about the fact that some would have to try to get private security. They were concerned about their lives, the lives of their children, their family, and their homes. They felt as though their spaces were being invaded. You know, and then of course, you know, one of the things that stood out as well is that when the former Attorney General Anna Ramlogan made it quite clear that this has nothing to do with race. Many people have been trying to put that, you know, at the forefront based on what they say have been coming out of North America. Now, what say you?
I think that's a distraction and that's a poor argument. I think people are getting mixed up with the Trayvon Martin incident, which took place in America, which seemed to have sparked some racial tensions there in the use of what the Floridian version of stand your ground is. In Florida, of course, the stand your ground doctrine applies in public spaces and that sort of thing. That is absolutely not the policy being introduced by the United National Congress in our country. We are using the phrase stand your ground in Trinidad and Tobago to introduce legislation which gives the homeowner or the home occupier the right to stand your ground in your house, in your home, and to protect the lives of yourself and your family and property. That is entirely different to the Floridian or Florida experience, where, as I said, there was some tensions among the races there. But that has nothing to do with Trinidad. So we shouldn't import problems that do not exist in Trinidad and Tobago. And as Mr. Ramlogan said, that is to sort of condemn or to say that one group of people are intruders and one group are not, which is absolutely not what is being said by anybody in this country. So the very argument that someone is trying to say that this has something to do with race is in itself racist. So I don't subscribe to that view at all. This legislation, I think, is good legislation. First of all, you have to commend the United National Congress for putting this out for public comment and consultation, which is seldom done in Trinidad and Tobago. It's very rare, especially over the last 10 years, where the government went out with legislation, put it out to consultation, and had the level of consultation that the United National Congress is currently having with this bill, where every single MP and every single area have held public forums for people to come and make their comments and you know, engage in discussions. I think if you look at the papers today, there are several articles about stand your ground where people are expressing their views. So it's really excited commentary, and it is good governance and really the true form of democracy. So you have to commend them for that. Secondly, this bill, in my view, that is out for public comment, has certain things which are really novel to the law. I have already commented and said, look, this is a bill that gives a person the right to stand your ground in your home to defend your property and your life. It also specifically abolishes this perceived duty to retreat that sometimes police officers and other arms of prosecution tend to take into account when they come to investigate a homeowner who has killed or who has defended his home lethally. Sometimes the police officers or the investigative persons want to know, well, could you have gotten away? Could you have left your house? Could you have ran away? Could you have retreated? Why should we consider that? Why should you have to retreat, or why should that be a consideration when you are in your home, the comfort of your home, and someone is coming into your home to do you or your family harm? That should absolutely be no part of the law, and this bill treats with those issues.
You also have folks weighing in talking about the international experience again, making reference to North America, shows that the laws have not made communities safer. Instead, they have led to an increase in gun-related deaths, encouraged vigilante justice, and has worsened the social divisions.
That is absolutely not true. And again, it's conflating stand your ground statistics in America with our version of stand your ground. Stand your ground version of the stand your ground version of the law in America allows the stand your ground doctrine, as it were, to be used in public and to be used in public places. And therefore, that has perhaps led to some increased conflict and aggression where you have conflicts taking place outside of the home, let's say in a bar, in a public place, or on the road. That is entirely different when an intruder comes into your home, which is perhaps more akin to the castle doctrine that is used in America, that type of phraseology. It is clear, in my view, that those statistics being cited by persons have absolutely nothing to do with the law in Trinidad and Tobago. They're simply citing studies and statistics to say, well, where stand your ground law has been introduced, there has been an increase in violence, without actually looking at the versions of laws that have been implemented in different states in America. If you look at those laws carefully, you will see that that is another type of self-defense law, or another type of law which allows defense in public areas, and therefore people may go out looking for confrontation and then seek to invoke stand your ground doctrine to defend themselves when they were in fact the aggressor. Again, wholly different when you are at home looking at your television show in your house or asleep. Someone breaks into your house. How on earth could there be an increase in violence when someone enters into your house and you use your stand your ground doctrine? Where is the increase in violence?
No, I understand clearly where you're coming from. To me, basically, it gives you a fighting chance rather than you being a sitting duck. And I think that's something that people may try to debate over. But the fact of the matter is that someone is invading your private space. Someone is saying, listen, this sanctuary that you call home with your wife, your children, however, this means absolutely nothing to us. We want to get your belongings, and if we have to snuff out the life of you and your family, we're going to do it. But then there are those who are going to weigh in on this from this social aspect that, listen, this is just scratching the surface. These individuals, and that's the thing that I'm trying to understand. After the fact, you're telling me to do a psychological assessment. Perhaps someone didn't grow up in a home with a father. Perhaps they weren't good. They weren't academically inclined. I don't have time for that. I am in my home. Someone is coming into my home. They're invading my space. They don't care. They don't respect my home. They don't care about my life or the life of my family. Should I not have something, some policy to defend the lives of my family?
Correct. And I think where the law brings value is that in the aftermath, when you do all that is necessary to defend your loved ones, to defend yourself, to defend your property, the police officer or the person coming to investigate now has a very clear reference, clearly documented law, clearly itemized things that he has to consider when he has to decide whether he should arrest you because the intruder is lying dead in your house after you defend yourself, whether he must take you down to the station, whether he must detain you, whether he must take away your firearm or other weapon, whether he must detain other members of your family while he investigates. Now, the law will be very clear that if that intruder was in your house and you use lethal force, the police officer really ought not to be bothering to detain you because you have invoked your right to stand your ground in your house. And I cannot see how that can be objectionable in Trinidad and Tobago in the context where, for the past couple of years, we have seen an increased number of home invasion and an increased, an increased level of disrespect to the homeowner, where these home invaders come in and tie you up, interfere with your family, beat you in your own house, take away your property, make you feel vulnerable. How on earth could it be objectionable that the government and the UNC government is now saying, we are giving you the unambiguous right to stand your ground in your house and defend yourselves?
Now, in one of these consultations, it was quite clear that, many people have been talking about guns and what have you, but the fact of the matter, you have dogs, you can use cutlasses, whatever it is, that you need to defend yourself. Does that fall into the protection of the law?
Absolutely. By any means necessary that you have available to you to defend yourself, you have the right to stand your ground. And then the other issue where people try to say, well, the law is useless because you don't have firearms. The current law as it stands in Trinidad and Tobago is that any citizen over the age of 25, I believe it is, can apply for a firearm, a legal, lawful firearm, and obtain it through the usual processes. Once he has a certificate of good character, once he does the psychometric testing, or psychological testing, and he's of good health, etc., and you have the correct premises, and you have the other things, and you do your training, you can obtain a firearm. So that right is open to every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So if you feel that you also need a firearm, the law already exists, and this law will complement the right that you already have to apply and obtain a firearm. So it's really not an issue. Now the problem is, I accept that there have been delays, so to speak, by the police service in processing these applications. I have represented several clients who have had to sue in order to force decisions to get their firearms. So I know that there's a delay, but the point is the right exists, and this law will complement the already existing right that you have to obtain firearms.
Yeah, and looking at it as well, for those who have been weighing in on it, the fact is that the administration at least took the initiative to say, listen, let's listen to before we implement anything. Let's hear the views of the people. And listening to it, I mean, people are basically living in fear. Now, that in itself has come under criticism, where it is that government is just, of course, pandering to those who have this sense of fear and insecurities and say, look, listen, just get a gun and go about doing things like the Wild Wild West, which is far from the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely, because a government in power has, as one of its most powerful tools to effect change, its legislative power. Legislation can also affect behavior, and in my respectful view, now that, let's call them potential home invaders, or those out there in the population who are contemplating doing some form of home invasion, when this law is passed, those persons would have to think twice. They would now have to consider, well, they could enter a home and be shot, killed, maimed, damaged, without any fear of repercussion by the homeowner. The homeowner would have no second thought about doing it, and therefore their lives are now at risk. And for once, it is not the homeowners that will be in fear, it will be the bandits and home invaders that will have to consider fear before they do anything.
What about folks who would say, listen, at the end of it all, the individual came into your home with a knife, and it just seemed that you went to the extreme to actually offload bullets from a gun on that person.
And the law tells you that, yes, proportionality could be considered, but it also says you don't have to weigh the niceties. And if you are in your home and you are standing your ground, you can't consider, as long as, let's say, it's happening quickly and you act instinctively. The law actually says if you act instinctively and honestly, well, then nothing could be done to you. And certainly if you see somebody, I don't know which individual would see someone enter the home with a penknife and say, well, let me see what I could find in my house to match your penknife, right? I think instinctively anybody sees an intruder in their house and they have a knife or they have some, let's say, minor weapon, you will use what is available to you as best as you can to expel that intruder or potentially defend yourself, lethally if needed.
And the issue of reasonableness, I believe that's...
The law, again, and this is the beauty of statute, sometimes, yes, we know there's a common law, and over hundreds and hundreds of English law and Trinidadian law, we have established what is reasonability or reasonableness in the context of self-defense. Well, it's good to have it codified in a statute so that every citizen, you don't have to go and read hundreds of cases like I had to do in law school. You could now go to the statute and very clearly see what the law says in relation to reasonability and what are the factors that will be taken into account. And some of them are things such as the nature, the force of the threat, the extent to which the force was imminent, the occupant's role in the incident, and that is important. If you are taunting somebody to come into your house, come, I will do, come in, and then you can't benefit from stand your ground. So the law is balanced. It talks about the history of interaction. It talks about if there was domestic situations previously, so it won't be available. You can't be engaged in domestic violence and expect to benefit from stand your ground law, right? So the law is balanced. It sets it out, and more importantly, it's not finalized. It's out for commentary. It's out for consideration. And I'm sure when all of the comments come in, and the cabinet and the drafters look at it again and they make amendments, that will reflect ultimately the consensus of our society in creating this law, and that is how laws are meant to be made in a democratic society.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, again, we're talking about seconds, split seconds to make a decision that, of course, would be in the interest of you protecting your family.
Yes.
And when you listen to people weighing in on this and adding their voice, especially those who seem to be looking for kinks in it, they're telling you, look, listen, man, at that point in time, there are those who will make up their mind and say, the individual has been injured, but I need to finish them off, because what is the chances of these individuals going to court, perhaps getting bail, and then if not, sending someone to come and snuff my life out because I have to go to court, I have to testify. So perhaps I'm doing all the work that I need to do now and get rid of them.
Well, the law clearly says, it says two things in relation to that. Firstly, it says,
please clear that.
Yes, firstly it says, if you are acting honestly and instinctively, and so as to what was necessary and a legitimate purpose, then the law protects you. So someone breaks in, you act instinctively and you kill, and honestly you didn't intend for anything else, but you were defending yourself, the law protects you, no issue. Person dies, absolutely no issue under this law. But the law also does say, well, if you are acting grossly disproportionate, then that may be something that the law will have to consider, and the defense may not be appropriate to do to you. So that may cover what may be described as execution. Certainly, the law isn't going to encourage executions, because then it could be abused, and therefore that is actually the law, I suppose, striking the balance that many of the detractors are saying are not there. So the very detractors are saying, oh, this is to assassinate, and it's absolutely not. The law actually still says that if you are grossly disproportionate, with your force, then it may not be available to you. So I think the law strikes a good balance. But at the end of the day, I think it is a good deterrent. I think that it is good to codify these laws. I think the process in arriving at this law is good. And I think the society will benefit from a proper codified self-defense of property bill, or as we call the Home Invasion Act.
I need to ask you as well, the ruling this week, I know we could touch on that, where the judge with the CPEP case basically saying that perhaps mediation should have been at the forefront, and asking exactly what role the former line minister would have played in all of this. What does that give us? I mean, in layman's term, what is that outcome all about?
Well, my understanding of the ruling, and I have not had a chance to study it, but I did skim it, is firstly, where you have an agreement or a contract that has something called a mediation clause or an arbitration clause, you ought to try to mediate or arbitrate an issue prior to coming to court and harassing a judge about your issue. And it appears whenever the claim was filed, that option was not explored, and therefore the court said, you've come to me prematurely. But secondly, what the judge has said is that there's evidence before her that the former Attorney General, Mr. Rawi, may have played a part in the wrongful renewal of these contracts, to put it moderately. And she did note that he didn't have an opportunity to respond, or he was not at evidence in the case, but she simply said that this requires some investigation, and I think she has referred it to the DPP. It is a very troubling issue if it is that contracts were renewed en masse without proper authorization or without the proper procedures that are required under law, such as the cabinet approval, such as the ministerial approval. And if that was done, then there are consequences to follow. I don't know the facts, but we wait and see.
You did, of course, the Justice Mohammed directed that all case documents be sent to the DPP. What does that signal?
Well, you don't send something to the DPP if there's no basis for concern or perhaps criminality. The DPP has a constitutional role to effect prosecutions in this country. Now, I suspect what will happen is that the DPP will send it to the police for further investigation. The DPP himself has no investigative power, but if there's enough evidence, the DPP can instruct charges be laid because there's sufficient criminal offense. So we'll see how it goes. As I said, we don't have the facts, and to be fair, we don't have we don't have all of the evidence in the matter, but certainly from what came out in the judgment, it is worthy of investigation.
100 days, new administration, not much legislative, should I say, issues on the agenda. Moving forward, do you think that we will see more of that taking place?
Oh, absolutely. I think the UNC is moving forward. It has a lot of its campaign promises it needs to fulfill. Obviously, any new administration coming in, they have to get the lay of the land. They have to understand the conditions which they operate. Yes, some of these things are documented in public documents, but you don't actually know the situation, I would think, until you get in the government, you start uncovering issues, and then you start to plan your way forward. So 100 days, very short time in terms of governance, but I think they've done a lot. They've already tackled CPEP issues. They've already tackled stand your ground. They've already they've had to treat with a national emergency issue and invoke a state of emergency. So that must have eaten up a lot of time in the way they've dealt with things. And you see so much other positives going on in the country. I think there's a sense of hope generally. So I wish them well, of course, and we hope that that the next 100 days will bring even more benefits to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time out, as always. Very insightful. And of course, giving us that legal clarity that many of us who may not be legally inclined simply understand when it comes out of your mouth. I want to thank you so much again. And I will continue to call upon you with many of these issues so we can get it to the people. Thank you so much again.
I could think of no better way to spend a Sunday afternoon. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Short break. We'll be right back.
Your heart does so much for your body, your life, your loved ones. But modern stress, diet, and lifestyle can tip the balance, especially with every passing day. Heart XL delivers high-potency omega-7 palmitoleic acid from sustainable pollock oil to elevate HDL and support a healthy metabolism.
Inflammation and low HDL put your heart at risk. Heart XL's omega-7 helps reduce C-reactive protein and support healthy HDL, keeping your heart strong.
Heart XL, nourish your heart, sustain your life.
Oh gosh, this place hot, and the AC in this car not working.
Check Ryan Air. Ryan Air is ranked among the best in TNT for auto air conditioning service. They specialize in repairing and servicing all makes and models of vehicles and heavy equipment. They also stock a wide range of parts. Give them a call at 640-5828 or visit them at number 41 Kane Farm Road, Tacarigua, or email ryanairac@gmail.com. For prompt and efficient service, look no further than Ryan Air.
Where does disease start? It often begins silently. No pain, no symptoms, just inflammation quietly damaging your body. Our choice is food, stress, pollution, all feed inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many modern diseases.
You can't go back in time, but you can start addressing inflammation before it becomes disease.
Omega XL is a natural inflammation fighter clinically researched with over 30 fatty acids and no fishy aftertaste. Available Caribbean-wide at pharmacies and health food stores. Call 1-868-225-0410 for more information.
This Monday night, on the most powerful platform, Ministers Elijah Kool, Wayne Sturge, Jolene John, Barry Padarat, along with Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa, provide updates on what government is doing and what's next. The first 100 Days Plus, hosted by Minister Clyde Elder, Monday night, Kuva Multipurpose Hall, 7 p.m. with a live stream on all major platforms. The first 100 Days Plus.
Thank you, Master Control. First 100 days. Joining us at this time is a man who is no stranger. Listen, we've interviewed quite a lot of good people, and we get the information to you. So trust me. We are talking to the Prison Officers Association President, Mr. Jared Gordon. Comrade Gordon, how are you, sir? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm good,
Thank you
Mike.
so much for taking time.
Listeners.
Thank you so much for taking time out this Sunday to link with us. You know, recently you spoke about the fact that it was time to shut down these prisons, I believe Port of Spain and Kerr. And are you talking about newly developed institutions? Go right ahead, tell me.
Yeah, brand new. The thing about it is that I can't stress enough. When I say we, Trinidad and Tobago, we are operating in, let me say, 1938, and the criminals are operating in 2025 and beyond. Further to that, the current infrastructure, especially at Port of Spain and Carrera, is certainly not lending to us achieving our mandate. Now, I could get into all the discussions surrounding being properly resourced, getting the support that we so greatly need from the state. But I cannot discount the impact of having a modern correctional facility built, especially to treat with our high population of remanded individuals. It is not simply a matter of just throwing up walls, but more of having infrastructure that is purpose-built and taking into consideration some of the unique challenges we face. And you know, one of the big things people keep talking about is this whole issue of trafficking, this whole issue of contraband. And it's simply, I mean, we saw recently the guy throwing this thing over the wall in Port of Spain on Frederick Street, no less. So what I am hoping to get an audience to advance is the need to construct a purpose-built facility where the infrastructure is going to lend to us stamping out to a great degree any sort of options for that. I mean, when we look worldwide and internationally, in all our countries, you know, there are challenges with contraband, some more than others, but what we want to do is we want to reduce certainly what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago as much as is possible, so that we could certainly, you know, achieve that mandate in service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I mean, because a recent newspaper report says that more than $5.2 billion was spent on the prison since 2016, and yet still you're still playing with so many of these problems.
No, well, I want to please, via your platform here, for people to recognize when you do simple maths. We're not going to complicate it, but if we were to divide that 5.2 billion with the years from 2016 to, let's say, 2023, it's roughly around possibly about $600 million a year, of which more than half of that, almost in the earlier years before the little increases and things that we would have received, you're talking of salary bill, just to pay salaries, or $400+ million a year. And that does not include overtime, that does not include NIS payment, it does not include the food for the inmates, it does not include utilities. So the figure sounds fantastic, but if we were to do a comparison with, let's say, the police service spends that in possibly 2 years. That's $5.2 billion. So the figure sounds fantastic, but in reality, it is barely, if at all, scratching the surface when it comes to having a prison service that is properly resourced and outfitted.
Yeah, Comrade, I have to ask you, when do you think that we're going to get this thing right? Because you and I have had many discussions. I've had you on, I've had the former president on, and I think people are not understanding the kind of frustration that you have, that you go through, and not understanding the kind of work environment that many of these prison officers have to endure. I mean, the fact of the matter, you have people who they live in certain areas that they have to question their safety, their psychological balance, dealing with a very highly, stressful job. I mean, let's be honest, it's a very stressful job. I mean, it's not to say you're just going about your business, but you still have to deal with individuals who would come and try to inject fear in you and say, listen, I want you to traffic, or I know where you live, I know what school your children going to, I know your wife, I know your mother. Somebody could be harmed if you don't start plying our trade over the walls of these institutions. And taking all of that in consideration, why are prison officers still treated in a manner that when they are asking for just the basic fundamentals, it just simply cannot be given to them?
That is a very loaded question. Let me see if I could deal with it in pieces. So let's address the whole issue of the stress involved with the job. I often tell people that the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service is not the only correctional service or institution in the world. If you just do a cursory glance, you do a basic search, you would see that all of these institutions face a number of challenges, especially with the staff. What happens in Trinidad and Tobago, and I would like to utilize this whole issue of safety. There was an officer from Miami, Oswaldo Alvarati, who was murdered when he left work one day. Now and he was able to have a firearm, but in those days, there was no place available at the prison for him to lodge. So he left his firearm at home, he came to work, but they murdered him. And within 2 to 3 weeks, now this is one officer who was murdered, within 2 to 3 weeks, the American government, via the congressmen and senators and whatnot, they enacted a whole new piece of law which speaks to the safety of correctional officers across, I think, 31 different states. And in Trinidad and Tobago, what we have seen is that we are, 32 deep in just over 2 decades, and the response from the state has been nil. The discussion in the states was never about contraband. It was never about cell phones in prison and officers bringing it in, because I think they recognize that we are talking about criminality.
Right.
And as long as you tolerate these acts, and these are things we have been saying all along, if an attack on a prison officer is an attack on the state, and when the state is slow to respond, or that response doesn't operate with a sense of force, then you have what is happening. So we have now a criminal empire that is emboldened. And who do they choose to attack? The least of us. Because prison officers don't lock up anybody. Prison officers don't sit and adjudicate on these people's matter. But guess what? The prison officer is who they see in every day. I suppose we have to make sure that they eat and they see the doctor and whatever it may be in an environment that is extremely hostile. And so what I hope, you talk about frustration and
yeah, but President, you just made a point there, comrade, and I want people to understand. I just don't want to drift over that. I know. But the fact of the matter is this. I mean, but you have been asking for certain things. You're talking about new state-of-the-art institutions, things that you need, basic fundamental things. And I think we also have to look at changing the mindset of the culture that, listen, we arrest, we hand them over, out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't work like that, because there are different problems now that are going to take place now that they're in the hands of the prison service. Remember, they're going in there, then you start talking about those who are going to be threatened for traffic, because they need to traffic and what have you. How then do you start to deal with that culture, that mindset of it can't just be about hand them over to the prison service, they're no longer our concern while they're in their custody, and forget about the main core objective, which is rehabilitation?
Right. So let me put it this way. Let me say this. Rehabilitation is everybody's business. It is not only in the prison rehabilitation is supposed to be happening. Let me start by saying that. Let me also start by saying that as long as we continue to operate in silos, we are the police, so we think we lock up and we have the person arrested. They go to the court doing their own thing, judiciary, and then we doing our own thing. That is not how the criminal justice system should be managed. Each one of those arms is part of one body, looking at coming at a singular result. Because what is happening is this disjointed approach. The police lock up and them a business. As far as they concerned, the man lock up, he get bail, it's of no concern to them. No. When he goes to court, his matter is adjourned 10,000 times, it's no concern to them, because they believe that they are a law unto themselves. And then the prison now, on our thing, we now trying to make the best of a bad situation, but without the type of support that is needed. What should be happening is that the criminal justice system should all be working together for the benefit of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And until that happens, then we are not going to be addressing the issues and challenges. But notwithstanding that, we also cannot continue to operate in spaces that are over 200 years old. So there's a discussion that needs to be had, that needs to be initiated among the arms of the justice system, the DPP's office, prison, the judiciary, and the police. We need to come together, and we need to envisage and determine, outline what is justice. What is this thing that we call justice? How does it look? And how are we going to deliver that to the people of Trinidad and Tobago? And that discussion is the discussion that is not happening.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, comrade, is that in all of these different stakeholders, it seems that the prison officers, when they drop the ball, are the only ones who are dragged over the coals.
Correct. And I don't know, honestly, Mikey, I don't know what it is. You will hear people say, we know that it have corrupt police officers. That is not a secret. We know that in the past we have had judges, magistrates. You would hear things bandied about. But ultimately, when it comes on, I don't know if because we work amongst and with the criminal element in society, those who people choose to discard and lock up and throw away the key, if somehow we are being held or thought of in the same way simply by association. And if that is it, then it also goes to the fact of how immature our society is as a whole. Because when you look at some of the comments, and I telling you, officers are not feeling good at all, Mikey. You know that you're doing all that you have to do. You know that you're coming to work and you're doing your job to the best that you can, given what you have. And then you see in these comments being made in fire everybody. And I mean, it is. I would be facetious to say that I could say why is society like that, or give a solution. I really don't know how could we change that. What I could do, I could make some suggestions. One of which is that the prison needs to be more open and visible to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The fact that we operate behind the walls and people not seeing what we do, they're seeing police up and down every day, they're not seeing us. It's only when something happens, then you have all this public discussion going on. But really and truly, we ought to have a very dynamic, cooperative relationship with the public of Trinidad and Tobago. Our doors should be open.
I want the viewers to understand something as well. Now, is there any process in place that once an officer is threatened and told, listen, we want you to traffic. Now, the ones who are hell-bent on being bad, they're going to be bad. I mean, let the law deal with that. But is there a process that someone could pick up, call some senior and say, listen, I was just threatened to do such and such, and you can get into action and start relocating this officer or whatever?
No, I will tell you what has happened, and I know of a particular case where an officer, that just as you described is what happened, and he reported it to his superintendent. They acted immediately with him. They removed him from that station, they placed him elsewhere, and they got the police involved. And he was able to, he was kind of in the system, but out the system, it have ways we could hide the officer for want of a better term. Right. But there are things that we could do. The thing about it is, what I'm saying is that when you have the criminals having the ability to tell you, I know your daughter going this particular school and your wife driving this particular vehicle, or your son going here or there, that, yes, that happened. As to the frequency of how it happened, at how much, I cannot say. But what I would also say is that we have some very, very, very diligent and good officers who continue to engage the space in spite of those stress. The thing about it is that currently we have the court, the state in court on that same safety and security matter. That matter is supposed to come up for trial in the new thing before the end of the year, right? But that matter has been going on 10 years. And when you see that it's almost as if they don't know that they don't know, meaning the state. You cannot have individuals exposed to this level of threat. And this threat here coming from cell phones,
Right.
We have to remember, you have our remanded population is where most of our challenges lie. And why? You have people there for 5, 10, 15 years, 18 years. You have people locked up 7 years. The matter going on is adjournment by adjournment, and you name it. All of this is going on. But who has to deal and treat with that person who is saying, I am innocent, the state has not proven me guilty? And we are standing in the way. We are seen as hindrances to them maintaining their civil liberties. But nobody seems to understand or want to address that. And there's our society, and I keep saying, as Trinidad and Tobago, we are accepting a level of mediocrity that is mind-blowing. And it is, where in the world could you tell me that it is acceptable to have someone locked up pre-trial for said man 8 years? In other jurisdictions, there are time limits. If it's a non-capital offense, it's 18 months. If the state is unable to prove its case in 18 months, they let you free. If it's a capital offense, it's 3 years. For the most, that person is remanded. In Trinidad, we continue with this foolishness. And when you look at actually the whole system needs to be looked at objectively. People need to be honest. When you look at the Forensic Science Center and the role that they play and the challenges that they are facing, and this is why we say this is not really, yes, prison has problems, but this is bigger than prison. And the reason that I continue to speak and engage and whatnot is with the hope, just with the hope that somebody will listen and understand that we have long gone past the point of blame this one, well, it's the police, and it's the judiciary, or it's prison. And when we finish blame, after the equal sign, after we find that, all them prison officers and them corrupt, hire all of them, what then? What then? Where do we go from there? And how is that added value to the discourse that we should be having to lead us to where we ought to be as a society?
Comrade, I agree with you. It basically is not balanced. And again, it seems that the prison services is getting the bad end of the stick.
Yep.
Totally unfair. But we're going to stick a pin in that. I want to do a part 2 of this because there's so many issues. And I think you should also let people know that, listen, there are prison officers who have committed suicide. That's a fact.
Yep.
That's how stressful the job is.
Yep.
Just like there are some police officers in the prison service, there are prison officers who have committed suicide. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Let me, before I know we're wrapping up with time, but let me paint a picture for you. So we have the officers who would have committed suicide. Then because of the stressful environment, our mortality rate generally is around 58 years old. Just recently we had an officer. He's probably 2 years away from 60. He retired 3 years ago. He's now getting his pension gratuity check. Found dead. And that is not a strange thing. It is happening more than we would want to admit. We lost 24 officers, active officers last year. Due to whatever man who got brain aneurysm, strokes, heart attack, cancer, all of these things are happening. Then on top of that, we are having people who, they decide, listen, I'm not going through this again, and they are resigning. So we're losing officers through resignation. Then we're losing people through, they're not waiting until they reach 55. You could apply to retire voluntarily. You seek permission to go at 50. People counting down to reach the 50th birthday, and they are going. And then you have the normal run-of-the-mill. So every year, just through retirement, we lose about 100 or so officers, and we have not had any recruitment for the last 5 years. So when you check that high level of attrition through all the various means. So here what the problem is. We're losing people, we're not keeping pace with the attrition through normal retirement. We're losing people through debt, suicide, and simply walking off the job. Right? My question is, at which point are we going to recognize how do we retain staff? How do we retain the expertise that we require? Because when these officers leave, it's not just a body. Sometimes it's a whole host of experience and knowledge simply walking away. And without any real plan to retain that, then how are we to improve? How are we to get better? How are we to really achieve our mandate when we could barely even keep pace? No, in fact, we're not keeping pace with attrition and the brain drain that is occurring in the organization. So there's a whole lot I tell you, these programs will be nice, but the time will be so short, Mikey. By the time we start
I will call upon you again because I'm also getting messages. People are loving it. They want to actually highlight some things. But comrade, I want to thank you again. Been very insightful, very informative, and best of luck to you and the entire team. But I will be calling upon you for part 2
no problem, Mikey. Anytime.
Have a good one. Thanks a lot.
All right, you too.
Appreciate it. Folks, that was the Prison Officers Association President, Mr. Jared Gordon, and of course, highlighting, of course, talking with us here on The Observer. The lines are open, 225-9790, 225-9790. If you want to make a WhatsApp call, 494-0938, 494-0938. Don't forget, all the interviews will be uploaded to our website, and that website, of course, is the Observer Yeah, I had it here. I just want to make sure that, yeah, theobservertt.com. Do forgive me. Theobservertt.com. A lot is on your mind. Do forgive me. So theobservertt.com. And I want to thank all the goodly people from this evening. The Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Senator the Honorable Philip Alexander. Minister of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, Senator the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh. And Attorney at Law, Kyle Taklalsingh, and President of the Prison Association, the man, Mr. Gordon. Hello?
Hello, Mikey.
Hey, how are you?
Good program as usual.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things we have to stop doing, I believe, is as we have these consultations on Stand Your Ground, is that when persons offer different point of views, they're not necessarily detractors. I think if we're having discussions, and we're saying this, we're having discussions so that we can work it out as a nation, the language we speak to each other as detractors is a bit discouraging sometimes for somebody to offer, hey, maybe this is a loophole here, and it would help us. Lastly, before I leave, I want to say that the criminal element, really and truly, they are so fearless, they should be behind trained policemen with big guns, very big guns. It puzzles me that they even think that they would win a fight like that, but they do it, right? And I really urge the public to understand that this, if I have a gun, they don't fear to come at me. The public also has a responsibility to, if you're stepping in this area, in understanding what you have and how to protect what you have. Because a firearm is something to protect as well. Your lifestyle. Maybe it's to go and drink on the beach. Maybe you cannot do it how you used to do it before. There are a lot of things that, so the criminal element not going to throw up their hands up in the air and say, well, that's it. People have guns, that's all. We retire. That's not going to happen. So I just wanted to offer that. It's not detracting. I just wanted to say that that's also an element to think about. And I really empathize with the prison service and the position that they are in. I really think they get a bad end of the stick when it comes to how we look at what they're going through. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have our next call on. Caller.
Good evening to the program, to Mr. Michael Kerr and the Observer.
Good evening, sir.
Now, in light of your guest with the prison there, I think you asked a pertinent question when it will come to an end. And that's the billion-dollar question. Because if these people inside there, and for all these years, all this corruption and all this criminality have been plaguing the prison and the nation, what it means to say the people who inside there to administrate in terms of safety and security. Right away, what comes to mind, Mr. Michael Kerr, is surveillance and detection in the prison. And if you have surveillance and detection is at an all-time low, and based upon what we're hearing, there is so much corruption with prison officers, then the question is here, until we deal with surveillance and detection at the nation prison, I am saying, well, hats off to the present administration led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. The Prime Minister is trying to put things in place to help what is taking place. But to the people who is inside there, the prison officers, the boss and the same union man, they now have to ask themselves the question in regards to surveillance and detection. Why is it at an all-time low? And when we solve that?
Yeah, but you know, caller, you know what's interesting? You there, caller?
Right here, sir.
Yeah, what's interesting, as I said, that I wanted to know if there was a process that when these prison officers are threatened, their lives are under threat, and people are telling them, listen, you better come here and make sure and traffic first, otherwise your family and your loved ones could be hurt. Is there any system in place to get them out of that volatile situation?
And that is the billion-dollar question. What the head is doing inside there to ensure that safety and security, and I'll raise it again, in regards to surveillance and detection, if that is an all-time low, Mr. Moderator and host, Mr. Mikey K, we can't solve the problem at our nation prison. I thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're correct. He's correct about that. If nothing is being done, then nothing is going to be accomplished. And these officers working in such an environment is definitely, really and truly, definitely that. Last call before I go, 225-9790, or you can WhatsApp me a call 494-0938, 494-0938. 100 days, again, very interesting. I think what we did learn from, for example, Senator Philip Alexander, 20,000 houses to be built in 5 years. That's not making headlines. And many of the things, I think that the planning minister and which is economic affairs and development minister, Senator the Honorable Kennedy Swartsingh, said quite a lot. He said that we are open for business. Things are happening. Again, they inherited a budget. So basically, they have to ride it out until the new fiscal year, and a budget is presented. And in that budget, of course, will be things that they were conducting these consultations on that will go in there to benefit the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So a lot will be happening. And many of you, I hope you remember, the entrepreneurial spirit was alive in 2010 to 2015. So hopefully that would return. One of the things I did ask him about was the Forex challenge. And I really would try to get an answer for you, and perhaps next Sunday I would relate to you what was told. I will ask him during the week. You can WhatsApp me to remind me, 494-0938. Just say WhatsApp. Mikey, don't forget to ask, Minister Swartsingh about the Forex challenge. Because the holiday period here, vacation period was on. I know many of you, of course, would have find it challenging to get foreign exchange to travel or for whatever that you may need to pay school fees and what have you. So that brings us to the end of our program. Master Control, one more time, just remind them, tomorrow it's all centered around the 100 days, Camden Couva at the Multi-Purpose Hall. Before we get out, just go right ahead, please.
This Monday night, on the most powerful platform, Ministers Elijah Kool, Wayne Sturge, Jolene John, Barry Padarat, along with Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa, provide updates on what government is doing and what's next. The first 100 Days Plus, hosted by Minister Clyde Elder, Monday night, Couva Multi-Purpose Hall, 7 p.m. with a live stream on all major platforms. The first 100 Days Plus.
Right, so you don't want to miss it, so get down there and, of course, be a part of the audience at the Multi-Purpose Hall in Couva tomorrow, 7 p.m. UNC Monday Night Report. Folks, the action is taking place. I am committed and dedicated to bringing you the information. I know you're hearing all kinds of things all over the place. People trying with the mischief. Unemployment rate is that. But when the last government was in, the CSO wasn't saying anything. We wasn't getting any information. The information wasn't forthcoming. So all of a sudden now, they have all the statistics, they have all the data, they have all the numbers. But what are they, who's that benefiting when in fact it's not correct? So again, programs like these, get your information, understand what your government is doing, and I'll be asking the questions, where are we going forward? We came out of 9 years of socio-economic stagnation. Absolutely nothing. Of course, the selected few that benefited, but the masses, we got nothing. So stay locked on. The action has started. Until next Sunday, God willing, I'll be back. Take care.
The Observer. Mikey Kerr, Mikey Kerr, Mikey Kerr, Mikey Kerr.